Thank you very much, Wendy. Good morning. Honorable John Anderson, Chair of the Crawford Fund, Honorable Pat Conroy, Minister of International Development and the Pacific, and Minister of Defense, Industry and Capability Delivery. Dear esteemed colleague, let me first start by congratulating you, Dr. Tony Fisher and Dr. Miriam, for the award. And also, let me express my honor to be here to give you this address. And from the outset, I want to say that I am an alumnus of GRDC. So as a matter of fact, I did my PhD with a project that was run by CIMMYT and ICARDA, and it was actually a project by GRDC with a fellowship for me to do my PhD. So I'm really grateful to all Australian grain producers for supporting my PhD through GRDC. So I come today as the Executive Managing Director, and thank you very much, Wendy, for the nice intro. But I come today as the Executive Managing Director of the CGR, and the CGR is the world's largest research partnership for a food-secure future, dedicated to transforming food, land, and water systems in a climate crisis. And I think we gather today at a very critical juncture in our collective efforts to address the profound challenges that defines our era. Our climate, biodiversity loss, and health crisis are deeply interconnected. These challenges demand holistic food security, food system solutions that we in this room have been working on, and we need to deliver. People are looking up to us to deliver those solutions. And more than ever, it requires collaboration, partnership, and co-design. I would like to focus on that theme today, as this is the main theme of the conference this year. But first, let me share with you that as an agricultural research and development professionals, we need to recognize both the great contribution that we did in the past, but also recognize the challenges that we have. And I think Dr. Tony Fisher took us back to the Great Revolution with Borlaug, but also the minister mentioned the really doubting numbers. 50% of the kids in Pacific are not eating well and would never be able to develop to their full potential. So we have 4 big challenges. The first one, it's the intertwined climate change, environmental, and health challenges. And agriculture is under immense pressure to develop solutions that mitigate and adapt to climate change. And this includes creation of resilient varieties, both in crop and animal and fish, improving soil health, and developing sustainable farming systems. Second, the funding constraint and sustainability. And thank you very much, John, for mentioning it. It's very important that we put enough investment to find solutions for today and tomorrow. The third one, it's policy and regulation barriers. There is many times inconsistent and restrictive regulatory environment that can hinder the adoption of new technologies and practices. So effective collaboration between research institutions, government, private sector, capacity sharing is essential to align policies with scientific advancement. And the fourth challenge, it's equity and inclusivity. So out of all the SDGs, I think we all talk a lot about many of them, but very few of us recognize SDG 10, which is reducing inequalities. And I think reducing inequalities, it's one of the most difficult SDGs to get to, because inequalities are growing instead of reducing, and inequalities could be globally south versus north, but could be within the same countries or within the same community. Today, I will explore how partnership and co-design can help us meet these challenges. While it is increasingly important to co-design solutions now, so I think agricultural innovation cannot stand alone. They feed into and are a result of a system approach, holistic solution that cannot be developed without broader partnership and co-design. Historically, many efforts to support our overstretched global food system focus on a single solution or a single aspect of a solution, such as developing better crop or reforming subsidies or reducing food waste. System transformation requires coordinated bundles of innovation. So it's not one solution, it's many solutions that together can do better. And those innovation has to be technological innovation, but that's not enough. We need social innovation, we need institutional innovation, political innovation, and partnership is crucial to bring those dots together. CGR advocates systems thinking, a holistic approach that accounts for the interplay of all elements, assessing both the potential benefit and the harm of new development. We should consider at the outset whether a particular innovation will be accessible and practical for women as much as men, and how it will impact the environment, the trade, the food prices, the livelihoods, the nutrition, and so on and so forth. Likewise, new crop varieties, technologies, or incentives to increase yield are meaningless if there is no water to irrigate, for example, if it's an irrigated land, or if there is no infrastructure to take the crop to the market. Innovation systems rely on engagement among many actors, including farmers, communities, government, enterprise, universities, research institutions, and much more. There is a growing understanding of the interconnection between food, land, and water systems, and how these then connect to climate, to gender, to policy, economics, etc. So we recognize the need to shift away from a focus on single solution developed by a single entity, which might increase productivity at the expense of other elements of the food system, ecosystem, equity, and climate goals. So partnership needs to be much more than just a slogan. It is the cornerstone of an effective agricultural research and development. It involves equitable participation, mutual respect, and a shared vision. So transforming food, land, and water system, or as I used to say as an FAO employee, the agri-food systems, within a climate crisis must be undertaken together, with each stakeholder contributing their unique strength and perspective. So when we think about it logically, it makes sense. We get all together and each one of us brings what best they are at, but in reality, it's very complicated. One of the transformative approaches we and many others have adopted is the co-design of projects with local stakeholders. This participatory approach ensures that our research is not only scientifically sound, but also culturally appropriate and socially accepted. For example, our participatory breeding program increasingly involves women and men farmers in the design of crop varieties, decisions aimed towards meeting their market needs and their preference. And I want to give you an example for the breeding of beans, common beans, where the participatory breeding allows us to develop quick cooking common beans with a 30% reduction in cooking time, which is expected to be delivered to 1.8 million women farmers in East Africa. This was done in collaboration with several partners, including University of Western Australia and a lot of support from ACR. Farmers' involvement from the outset ensures higher adoption rates and greater impact. These are several other agri-food innovations. These are just one example of many. We've got many examples on irrigation technologies, soil management approaches, chicken breeding, which is doing wonderful work in Ethiopia and in East Africa, or agroforestry practices. More and more, research projects are aligning solutions with stakeholder needs, relying on deeper collaboration to drive impact and scaling. Of course, organizational partnerships are often at the core of this work. And I want to give you two examples from those organizational partnerships. The first one is with the African Development Bank, with a program called TAT, Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation, that established partnership between the research institution, national system, private sector, and development agencies in delivering proven technologies. And because it brought everybody together, it sped up the delivery process, and it has delivered climate-smart seeds to 12 million farmers in 27 countries in only 3 years. The other example is from the World Bank. It's a program called ECRA that is scaling climate-smart agriculture and climate information services for millions of smallholder farmers in Africa. So the teams in Senegal, Ghana, Mali, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Zambia work with national and regional partners to increase access to life-changing innovations. And on a national level, we recently launched a new partnership with Papua New Guinea National Agriculture Research Institute to boost adoption of highly yield climate-smart and healthier rice varieties and systems. This will include the latest production and post-harvest techniques, seed production, irrigation, and economic assessment, all tailored for Papua New Guinea rice sectors. And we have with us here our new DG of IRRI, Dr. Yvonne Pinto. For the first time, IRRI has a woman DG, and it's not easy to have really a woman DG in the CGR. So this bottom-up and collaborative approach should also extend to capacity development or capacity sharing. We should no longer employ the traditional unidirectional transfer of knowledge and skills. It is time for the next generation approach, mutual learning, co-development, and sharing evidence, innovation, and technologies among partners. CGR research engagement in Africa takes this approach. CGR and NARCE's partner in Ethiopia, Rwanda, and Senegal are prototyping a model which NARCE's lead the research project aimed at enhancing sustainable research, development, and innovation capacities, catalyzing investment, and delivering impact. As well, we have what we call citizen science, which is really increasingly a powerful tool, a bottom-up approach that engages local communities in research. So for example, we involved banana farmers in data collection for crop improvement and pest management. Farmers across Asia and Africa shared pest sighting and crop health data in real time using mobile apps. This helped them improve pest management technique, reducing crop losses, and provided wonderful data for the scientists as well. And of course, multi-stakeholder platform can boost inclusion by bringing together diverse groups such as farmers, researchers, policymakers, private sector representatives to co-create and implement solutions. So all these types of partnership-focused, inclusive approaches have led to smarter innovation, more equitable distribution, and greater stakeholder buy-in, enhancing the sustainability and the impact of our science. Now I would like to look at a couple of partnership examples in more details. The first example is PABRA, which is a very successful model of co-creation and partnership, which stands for Pan-Africa Bean Research Alliance. This project successfully influenced policy and delivers innovation to farmers. Africa needs new varieties of beans that can grow more quickly, produce higher yields, and withstand climate impacts such as drought, pests, and diseases. Farmers and consumers have also preferences, either in color, shape, or size of the beans, and the beans have to become more nutritious because they are a staple crop in many parts of Africa. So to meet these needs, PABRA unites farmers, researchers, policymakers, and development partners to address the challenges of bean production across Africa. Its approach involves farmers in the research process, ensuring that bean varieties developed meet their preference, and also they wanted a shorter life cycle. So we moved from 90 days life cycle to about 70 days. PABRA has helped 37 million farmers across the continent. 58% were women, to feed their families and expand their businesses and strengthen their communities. And right now we have about 650 bean varieties that are used by smallholder farmers and communities. And PABRA's success has significantly influenced agriculture policy in several African countries. For example, biofortified bean that is rich in iron and zinc have been integrated into national strategies to combat malnutrition. In Rwanda, PABRA work led to the integration of improved bean varieties into their crop intensification program, boosting both food and nutritional security. And by involving stakeholders at every stage, PABRA have created a model where science effectively informs and shapes policy, leading to sustainable agriculture and improved livelihoods, particularly of farmers. And for this, luckily, PABRA received last year, 2023, the African Food Prize in recognition of the exceptional leadership in both expanding but also protecting the biodiversity of beans. CGR is actively engaged in reducing greenhouse gas emission in livestock production through several innovative approaches. One of the key strategies involved the adoption of improved livestock farming practices and the selection of specific breeds that are more efficient in converting feed into meat or milk. What we're looking at, it's emitting less methane per unit of production, and there's a huge work that needs to be done more in most of the least income countries. A combination of livestock genetic gains, drought-tolerant and water-efficient forage species, and the use of knowledge networks and pioneer household, and the use of comprehensive feed database and tools to aid in decision-making and environmental analysis has allowed higher buy-in the farming community by integrating all these strategies. So it's not only one, it's the genetic of the livestock, it's the forages, and most of them are new, coming from our gene bank in SIAT, from the Alliance, and the work with the communities and the influence to the policies to align with it will allow us to reduce greenhouse gas emission from livestock by 30%, contributing to the global effort to combat climate change. Another compelling example demonstrates co-designing technique innovation in a concept called agroecological living landscapes, ALLS, spanning 7 countries. So we've tried it in Zimbabwe, Tunisia, Burkina Faso, Kenya, Senegal, Peru, and Laos. And this agroecological living landscape are spaces for multi-stakeholder engagement among actors who are part of territorial food systems. Participants exchange views and knowledge and co-develop and adapt agroecological innovation. They all integrate agriculture, environmental, and socioeconomic research to develop and achieve a realistic and context-specific agroecological transition aligned with the 13 agroecological principles, such as soil health or diversification, or economic diversification. ALLS include local farmers, again, researchers, policymakers, collaborative partners, communities, and all of this, the fact that we bring them all together allows us really to both be scientifically robust and meet local needs. This collaborative framework has led to significantly policy impact by engaging with national authorities and stakeholders from the outset. The initiative ensured that the policy shifts are both impactful and sustainable. So all these examples, the 3 that I gave you, demonstrate how collaboration can meet complex, intertwined challenges. The interdependent nature of these challenges necessitate comprehensive approaches, ones that cross partnership, cross sectors, cross discipline, and cross continent. CGR works with about 3,000 global partners to develop and deploy innovative strategies to adapt and mitigate these challenges. We work in over 80 countries. We have a staff of about 10,000 people across 15 centers. Here is my colleague from the WordFish that's going to be speaking later. Let me mention a few examples of how our partnership are addressing the interconnected challenges between food and nutrition, food security, nutrition security, health, climate, and sustainability. Our work harnesses the rich genetic resources available in nature. CGR has about 11 gene banks that provide genetic variation across 3,000 plant species to researchers, to extension services programs, to communities and farmers around the world. These help users develop options for more resilient, diverse, and environmentally sound agri-food systems. And on a smaller scale, we also support community seed banks, which are essentially farmers' social network designed to produce, store, and deliver seeds, especially to marginalized farming communities. As well, through our CGR National Breeding Networks partnership, we are pioneering the development of nutritious crop varieties with higher tolerance to climate variability. For example, our drought-resistant super beans are maturing 33% faster, and flood-tolerance rice has brought yield increase of up to 1.2 tons per hectare. And we have distributed about 200 varieties of climate-smart maize across sub-Saharan Africa with around 40% greater yield. So looking ahead, broad but strategic partnership that integrate agriculture, environment, and health will be pivotal in our effort to achieve food security and improve human well-being. We can develop and scale new innovation together. For example, new technologies and tools for mapping and discovering food composition offer immense potential. And I'm very proud to be part and parcel of PTFI, the Periodic Table of Food Initiative, that is led by Rockefeller Foundation. And what PTFI does, it's to really address a gap, a crucial gap in our understanding of food biomolecules composition through an easy standardized platform. It really shows collaboration, engaging partners from both the Global South and the Global North, and a wide array of disciplines such as food, agriculture, environmental science, human health, data science, and analytical chemistry. One of its recent sub-studies published in Nature Food included a meticulous curated list of 1,650 nutritionally and culturally diverse food, and it provides what it shows in that paper is that when you look at all the food and you look at all the biomolecules, we know less than 1% of the biomolecules. So out of the 20,000 biomolecules that we find in the first 1,000 food, we knew less than 50 of them. And that really underscored a critical opportunity for our scientific understanding of nutrition. So when we talk about nutrition, we think that we know that if I take vitamin D, I can absorb it the same way another person will. It's not true. And that's where really bringing American Health Association with the Alliance and CGR, with people from the agriculture sector to understand better nutrition. And I would really encourage you to Google PTFI and see how that paper over the 4 years, that analysis show us we know only about 1% of nutrition. The other example is Ukama Ustawi, a collaborative project between the Alliance of Biodiversity International and CIAT with Calgro, supporting Kenyan smallholder to co-design diversified maize mixed farming system through improved practices and policy support. The project uses on-farm participatory action research called the mother and baby approach. So scientists first run the mother demos, then the farmers later run their own experiment called baby demos. More than half of the participants were women in this example. And the result, one farmer, Mary Mbuya, said, using crop diversification and water management technologies, I can harvest beans and follow up with maize. My family is assured of food. So this kind of co-design research is the future for improving sustainable practices and food security. And that's just a glimpse of the many methodologies that we are really looking into and that we are trying in different parts of the world. Maybe to move to the last part of my talk, this session is entitled Transformative International Agricultural Research and Development. And we cannot discuss this issue without addressing a core need, which is global investment. Myself, I'm not just a science manager or CEO. I used to be a scientist, like many of you here in this room. And throughout my career, I have watched as investment in agriculture, research and development, particularly in low-income countries, has declined. According to the SARAS 2030 report, we need to double investment in agricultural research and development to end global hunger and malnutrition. This significant increase in funding, that's why a significant increase in funding is required to strengthen productivity, sustainability, and resilience of global food system, particularly for the global south. In 2023, for example, only 7.4% of the public funding, ODA, globally was spent on research and innovation. So we need definitely more ODA to be spent on research and innovation to tackle the root causes of hunger and malnutrition, to build resilience in the agri-food systems, and to prevent crises from occurring in the first place. And we cannot rely on ODA. ODA is very limited. We need collaboration and contribution from across society. This means the promotion of public-private partnership and innovative financing, and I think Australia is a very good example in that sphere. Further, this research and development overseen by people like us in this room must be better targeted toward the global south, where climate impact are mostly greatly felt, and particularly also small island or big ocean countries as well. But only 5% of the research in agricultural research and development is currently relevant to the global south, 5% only, where the world's most vulnerable people live. So as we navigate the complex landscape of agricultural research and development and the challenge it needs to meet, I will really call on all of you to invest, innovate, collaborate, and be really true partners to each other and to the global south. Our collective success hinges on our ability to connect and align, and by embracing robust partnership and co-design, we can achieve greater impact and build a more resilient and sustainable future. Let us really move towards a shared commitment to collaboration. Together, we can do it, but only if we come together and if we address SDG 10 along SDG 1 and 2, zero hunger, no malnutrition, and reducing inequalities in the world. I think with science we can, and we need to speak up a bit louder, say the things we know and the things we don't know, recognize it, but above all, really work together as equals. It's learning, it's not one way, it's both ways. And being here, and be it in a land of indigenous people, I think you know it better than I do. Thank you very much.